Yeah.
No, there you go. It's officially recording. All right, so thank you for logging on to listen to Peter Holton's talk about India. I hope you took I did post his some photos on the group page. I don't know if you guys just had a chance to look at it, but it's pretty spectacular. So I think this will be good. Not much as far as housekeeping right now, just we're in the middle of our summer, but just remember that on Tuesday this week, right, the 20th? Yeah, Tuesday this week, holy smokes. We're back at RPAC. So we'll be there 6:30. If you want to come in a little bit earlier, I'll be there earlier than 6:30, but that's when officially it's starting. The bar will be open. We don't have a speaker. We don't have an agenda. It is literally just a chance for everybody to kind of reconnect and come back from COVID. It's our first time in person again, other than a couple of short walks. So just come on out, spend as much time as you want, say hi to some old friends. That's really all it's about. But yeah, that's sneaking up on us like everything else is sneaking up on us. That's on Tuesday. We're still looking for a speaker to talk about minimalism in September. If anybody has any recommendations, like Peter was recommended to us by Reed. So definitely if you have any recommendations you want me to reach out to, just let me know. I'm happy to reach out and see if we can get somebody booked. But we're still looking for that. And just a reminder that the winter show at RPAC is titled Minimalism. So that's our theme. So you have months and months and months to figure it out. Well, maybe not months and months anymore, but months. Yeah, if you have any questions about that, you know where to reach me. Scott, am I forgetting anything?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have another leadership meeting in the next couple of weeks, probably, to start hammering out whatever details are left. But so that's it right now. We're in our summer sort of break, but we will have an August challenge. We just have to figure out what it is, because we do have an August meeting at RPAC, whatever the third Tuesday of the month is. Oh, wait, I have a calendar right here. If you want to put it on your calendars, it's August 17th at RPAC. Will be the next meeting after Tuesday. So, but that's all I have. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Pete, and he's going to tell you all about India. If you have questions, I imagine you can stop him and just ask questions, and he'll go through his own ground rules. Go ahead, Pete.
Hi. So welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming along to the meeting. And so I'm from Perth in Western Australia. So I've lived here for the last 20 years. I'm actually originally from England, but I've been traveling to India for about 6 years now, and a lot of the pictures that I'm going to be showing are from the recent exhibition that I held called Visions of India. So, I'll leave a few web links and things if you want to see that, but I can point out the pictures from the exhibition as I go. So, have any of you been to India? I know, Leith, you've been there. Anybody else familiar with India? No. Okay. Now, I seem to have lost audio from. Oh, you're there. Yeah, that's better. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, I think we all just muted for you.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. So if you do have questions as I go, please feel free to jump in. There's not too many of us, so I'll take those as we go. So 2016 was my first trip. It was supposed to be just a one-off trip of a lifetime, but pretty much after the first day walking around Old Delhi, I was absolutely hooked. So it just went into more and more trips and more photographs, and it's a really spectacular country. It's deeply religious, and everything really in India is underpinned by their religions. You really, it's such a part of their everyday life, and a lot of the pictures that I've taken have got a religious context, which I won't go into too deeply. But the more, as I said, the more you understand that everything about India is religious, the more you understand the country. So I pretty much travel as a street photographer. I travel with a full frame Sony camera and 3 lenses. I do like to take pictures of people. So there are a lot of pictures of individuals in India. A lot of them are absolutely amazing looking people, quite different to what we see normally in our Western world. I always ask permission to take pictures. So I just hold my camera up and give them the thumbs up, and 99 times out of 100, they're all absolutely fine with that. So just before we get into the pictures, I'll give you a couple of important things that I think you'll be interested in. India is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. So really ancient. It started around about 3000 BC in the Indus Valley. But the more recently, it's really the things that are relevant to the pictures, I think, of the Islamic era, which was the Mughal Empire, around about the 16th century. So a lot of the really significant buildings that you see in India, the very famous buildings, were built by the Mughals back in the 1600s. And Shah Jahan, who was the emperor at the time, who built a lot of the very significant, very, very famous buildings. So you'll hear me talking about him a little bit. Then it was as they started to wane, the Mughals, the English, the British Empire took over, and they ran India for a couple of 100 years. So again, very significant influence on the culture, the language, obviously, the huge bureaucracies, lots of the roads and the ports and things were built by the British. That all came to an end in 1947, when India was granted independence, and very soon after the country was partitioned and Pakistan was created. So that really is that gives you a very, very, very brief history of India. So we'll get going. So the first image. Okay, here we are. So this is Old Delhi. This is a part of Old Delhi called Chandni Chowk, which is around about a 1 square kilometer commercial area. And this whole area of Old Delhi was actually built by Shah Jahan. Basically the town was a walled city, but now that walled city with myriad of streets has turned into an absolutely colossal market. Everything that you can ever imagine is traded in that area. And the chaos is really, it's quite, it's both overwhelming and brilliant. It's everything from, people walking with cow trailers or bull trailers, tuk-tuks, scooters, big trucks. It's just absolutely insane. So in this picture, I was trying to capture some of that insanity, and it's the noise that you hear in Old Delhi. I've got a recording. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but I've got a bit of a soundtrack. Hang on, let's see if this is going to work. Hang on. So yeah, so if you just read, you'll know that. So I call that the soundtrack to India. So pretty much anywhere you go in India, that's this sort of that constant honking of horns is what you hear. So yes. So this again is this is actually taken on the street. So you can see the guy there in his handcart. The scooters are everywhere, small motorbikes, and everybody's doing something. They're delivering something. They're they're taking produce or grain or flowers or spices, concrete, steel poles. Everything you can imagine is in Chandni Chowk.
It's almost like you have to use a video to get these street scenes, because all this is in motion at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's right. The speed of everything is quite amazing. So actually, capturing this just the snaps, I'm trying to just encapsulate the chaos in a few images. So yeah, everywhere you can, and
It checks you
something I
out
love.
lines.
Yeah, and you can see in the distance the wiring chaos. You know, it's just it's a health and safety nightmare of all of these power lines going everywhere. But yeah, so I think that gives you a little bit of an idea of the chaotic scene. So with that one, it's there's dozens and dozens and dozens of streets going off the main Chandy Chowk Road. And each area has got its own specialty. So you'll have a plumbing area and a kitchen goods area, dental products area. You know, every form of commercial activity you can think of is actually being carried out. And on a working day in a square kilometre, there are around about 1 million people in this area. So you can, you know, it really is bedlam. But it's really is, you know, coming from Western Australia, which is a pretty quiet place, it's just that human energy is just so invigorating and so exciting. And generally, you know, people just completely ignore you. They just get on with their lives. They're not too worried about you. So more than happy for you to be, you know, snapping pictures. And it's not touristy as such. There are tourists there, but generally it's just Indian people going around there massively productive and industrious lives, which is great to see. So this is a picture of one of the bicycle rickshaw drivers, and people have got this vision of people in India being incredibly poor and downtrodden and impoverished. But this is one of the you know, this people doing this sort of job. You think, you know, they really don't have a lot of money, but when you actually look a bit closer at the picture, you'll see his hair's very nicely cut, and he's very, you know, nicely groomed. His shirt is clean and freshly pressed. And what you see is, you know, even right through Indian society, people take a great deal of care about their appearance. And even though people might look poor to us, one of the first things we were told by our guide around Old Delhi is these people actually aren't, you know, they really aren't poor. You know, by Western standards they might be, but by Indian standards they actually have a fairly, you know, they're very happy with their lives on the whole. So I captured this one of the guy that was taking us around Old Delhi. They just hundreds of these pedal rickshaws. It's a great way to get around actually, because they're quite narrow and they're quite they can get into all of the back streets. So as you see the people going around, as I'm in the rickshaw, I'm just snapping pictures as I see them. So as I said, the people, quite an extraordinary range of people that you see in India. So obviously, with being a Hindu country, cows are absolutely everywhere. This is actually this is a guy in a bull cart, but he's taking some products around Old Delhi. But it takes a while to get your head around the fact that cows just have free run of the place. So they literally are just wandering around untroubled everywhere. But even to the point of when you're traveling around India between cities, you'll be on a freeway, you know, 3-lane highway, and then traffic will slow a little bit, and there'll be you know, 4 or 5 cows just asleep in the outside lane of the freeway, which is quite amazing to see. This is actually an old palace that was built in the Mughal era back in the 1600s, and this is one of Old Delhi's huge spice market. In fact, it's one of the largest spice markets in northern India, and you can see the way that the decrepitude just creeps up on Indian buildings. So the way it was explained to me is that the tenancy agreements, it's very hard for the landlords to actually increase the rents, you know, once they've been initially rented out. And these might have been rented out for literally centuries, and what they're paying, you know, they might be only paying a few rupee a week for these places, and as a result, the landlords really can't do any maintenance. They can't afford to maintain. So just slowly, things just get slowly more ruinous and decrepit. But they might just slap a coat of paint on here and there just to you know, to brighten the place up. But that gives quite an amazing feel to India, this decrepitude. It's just the you know, just the ancient look of the place, and the patinas on the buildings really are quite wonderful from a photographic point of view. So this is on the inside of one of the old Mughal palaces, and this is so with the spice market there, it's absolutely huge. And this is a chili porter, picture of a chili porter just having a few minute rest, and all of the dried chilies that he carries around the market into the to the distribution centers. The smell of the chilies in the air really makes you're walking around coughing. You're not sure why, but it's the actual the chilies are just absolutely incredibly strong, as you can imagine, in this quantity. And this is a picture of garland makers in the flower market, which is also in the same area of Chandni Chowk. So they just sit around in the building. They actually quite often not only work in these buildings, but people actually live there as well. So they'll bunker down at night and cook their chapatis and dal on open fires in these buildings. So there's a very strong smell of wood smoke right through India. That's one of the things that pervades the atmosphere, is the open fires, and it's actually quite damaging to the health of the people, particularly in the villages. They live in sort of these huts and they don't have great ventilation, and they're cooking over wood fires, and it's causes a lot of lung problems. So they're trying to get Indian people to convert over to natural gas as a first step to actually try to clean up the atmosphere over there, but it is pretty polluted. But these garland makers, their garlands are very central to the religious life of Indians. So lots of garlands and lots of temples. So when people go there, they take garlands as an offering. So it's just a guy hanging out of his window in the picture I showed earlier. You see hanging out, the washing rig hung out of the windows, and people not only work, as I said, not only work here, but live here as well. This is just more activity from the markets. So there's, the food stores, the street food in Old Delhi is absolutely fantastic. There's stuff that you'd never ever see in an Indian restaurant, and it's again, we were told, don't be worried about eating the street food. You're not going to get sick. A lot of the food's deep fried and prepared very freshly. People eat there every day, and it's not really a good idea to be poisoning your clientele. So it's actually quite safe to eat the street food in Delhi, which is absolutely delicious. So this is one of the little families that live in Chandni Chowk, in that palace that I showed you the back of. And as you go around, people in India are just incredibly friendly and hospitable. They're very interested in you, and as interested in you as you are as them, and very charming. And this little child, when they saw my wife and I, just came out, and she's put her hands together and said namaste, and then went through a little welcome routine, which is really charming, with her mum looking on, making sure that the child's safe and okay. So again, there's not only is there markets there, but weaving obviously is still a big thing in India. This is actually a sari weaver, and working on an older style loom. They've obviously moved into the 21st century in a lot of the larger factories, but there's still a lot of these small little workshops running, and this guy's just working away in a little room. And the thing there that you can't really appreciate is the clatter of the looms as the shuttles go backwards and forwards with the silk thread. So not something that will be allowed in our countries, but still very prevalent. These small, pretty unsafe little factories that you see all over India. So talking of the Mughal Empire, this building is built by Shah Jahan. It's called Jama Masjid, and it's one of the largest temple mosques in Old Delhi. And you can see Does that look familiar to any of you? The actual shapes of the domes and things. So, and it's actually built just so it will look quite familiar, I'm sure, because it's actually built just after the Taj Mahal. And there's on the Taj Mahal site, there's a mosque very similar to this there. So I guess he got good value out of his architects and built this in Old Delhi, which is still it's an amazing place to visit. Huge area of open space, which is quite rare in that part of the city, and obviously the local Muslim community go there several times a day to pray. Again, one of the locals there. So the nice thing about walking around the not so touristy areas is you're not completely mobbed by street vendors. People do come up to you, but generally just out of interest. As I said, the Indian people generally I've found very inquisitive about where you're from, and they're very keen to engage with you, which is quite delightful actually. They'll bring up their wife and their kids and introduce them. They'll all shake hands and tell you a bit of their life story, and and then you get the opportunity. They're very keen to know about your life, and so that's really is quite lovely when you're going around India, the actual human interaction. So this is going into one of the thousands of Hindu temples. So I started off by saying how religious Indian people are, and they'll go many times a day to their selected temples. And each, there are over 1 million Hindu gods, and it's an incredibly complex religion going back many, many thousands of years. But there are 5 or so major gods which people pray to. This one is actually the monkey god, so in the middle there. So each god has got its own strengths that people pray to if they're looking for some help in business, or if they've got family things happening or other problems. They'll go to the temple of the god that will most help them, and make an offering and pray to that god for guidance and for support and help. So just sitting there praying to the monkey god.
And the swastika over there on the side has nothing to do with Nazism, by the way.
No, that's exactly right. That's a good luck charm, and you see again over lots of doorways and things. You'll see the swastika. So it's absolutely nothing to do with the European. It's actually they talk about Aryans in the Aryans who initially lived in India. This is quite different to the Aryan race that Hitler spoke about. The Aryans are quite a different. So if you ever hear any mention of Aryans in India, it's not the Aryan race that the Nazis were talking about. Again, another guy just selling garlands on the street. So beautiful colours, and his hair is hennaed there. That's there's a religious significance to that. So good luck thing. So just one of the millions of people making a living in India just by doing fairly simple commercial activities. But again, notice how clean he is and how beautifully his hair's cut and groomed, and beautiful clean shirt. So and so we've talked about 2 religions. This is actually one of the main Sikh temples in Old Delhi. The Sikh religion is one of the younger religions. It's only about 600 years old, and they don't have a caste system. So a lot of people were attracted to that rigid sort of lifelong caste system, which puts you into a particular group of jobs. It's more of the caste system is as much as anything about craftsmen actually passing on their traditions down to their sons. So you'll get carpenters and stonemasons and all of the different castes have their have their own job, if you like. So the top caste are the Brahmins, they're the religious people in India, and they tend to run the huge bureaucracies. So they're right at the top of the caste system. The next one down are the warrior caste. So that's where all of the Indian royals, they're a member of that caste. So their job is to fight and defend India. So even now, people from that caste still, a lot of the families are very involved in the Indian army. So it still sort of pervades that. But going back to the Sikh temple, this is one of the largest ones, and every day from this temple down in the underneath the main religious area, there are huge kitchens, these huge vats of the Sikh congregation making dals and bread and different things for the 20,000 people a day that they feed. So this happens all over India and all over the world. The Sikh community give out food not only to Sikh people, but people from every religion go to the Sikh temples to take these offerings, which is seen as a religious thing in India. So, but it's done on an absolutely industrial scale, and day in, day out, as I said, up to 20,000 people are fed by this community, which is absolutely fantastic. And I'm not sure about in the what's happening in the US cities, but I know in cities in Australia, the Sikh community are, they're working very hard to help homeless people through this COVID crisis, and they're out, feeding hundreds of people. But it's quite a fantastic altruistic religion, this Sikh religion. So it's all staffed by members of the Sikh community, of the congregation, and they supply all of the food as well. So now that's Old Delhi. So our next stop on our journey was to the ancient city of Varanasi. Now, I'll read out a quote from Mark Twain about Varanasi. He said, It looks older than history, older than tradition, older than legend, and looks twice as old as them all put together. So it's the world's oldest continuously inhabited city. So this is one of the religious Baba that the ascetics that congregate in Varanasi. So they've given up all worldly goods. You can see this guy is just sitting there. He's got the painting on his head is in honor of Lord Shiva. And you can see the little bag that he's carrying there. That actually are all of his worldly possessions. So the Holy Baba, the Sadhu, they're also called Sadhu, wander around India to the religious sites. And as they go, they just try to get small donations. They quite often carry a little brass pot for people to put donations into, but deeply spiritual, and even to the point of godliness. They're considered gods by some of the Indians. But so this is just one of the guys just sitting there in his little area. And in the background, you see the skull and bones on the fresco on the wall. So with in India, there's balance and everything. So for the holy, the really holy people, the godly people, on the other side of it, there's a group of Baba they call the Aguri, and these are the black Baba, and they walk around completely dressed in black. I didn't actually get a picture because they're actually people, Hindus are really quite terrified of the Baba that dressed in the black, because they can put a curse on you, and you can pay the Baba to actually curse you. And the guy that we had in Varanasi, his friend had been cursed by a Baba and lost his hearing. So this is really a very real part of the life in India, particularly in Varanasi, the ancient city of Varanasi.
Varanasi is also where all the primary cremation center for India on the
That is
steppe,
correct.
on the
That's
Ganges.
Yeah. So I'll talk about that in a minute, actually. So
Sorry.
no, you're good. No, you're good. Jump in anytime. So this is one of Varanasi's Ghats. Now the Ghats are another name for steppes. So the Ganges is very holy. It's considered a goddess, Mother Ganga, and people come to Varanasi to bathe in the river, to cleanse their sins by immersing themselves in the waters, and also, which I'll come on to in a minute, they actually come to be cremated in Varanasi. So, but this is just one of the Ghats. The Ghats, the steppes run through the major part of the city. The Ganges rises and falls depending on the monsoon season. So you can see here, where the steppes are a bit brighter and a bit darker, the level of the Ganges goes right up. But it gives people very easy, safe access down to the river, where a whole variety of things are happening. You can see people there on the right-hand side of the picture praying. On the left-hand side, the guy's there doing his washing. The lady just to the right of the guy doing his washing, she's cupping the water in her hands, and she's probably going to drink some of the water of the Ganges, which people in India are convinced it's absolutely pure. They've got no fear at all of drinking this water, which it's all sorts of things are pumped into it, including the ashes of hundreds of dead bodies over the course of a month. So so this is a picture of one of the early morning rituals in Varanasi. So people go down at sunrise. Sunrise in the city is absolutely beautiful. The light is quite spectacular. I told you about the amount of wood smoke that is in India. So that really diffuses the light in a beautiful way. So it's a really lovely time in the city. So there's probably a pilgrim there who's just immersed herself into the river. You can just see the water splashing off her arms there, and the light, the beautiful morning light shining through the water coming off her arms there. So this is a typical scene. And this is another scene from Dawn in Varanasi. Again, you can see everybody going around their morning rituals. So I particularly like this picture because the lady in the middle of the image, she's almost knee deep in the holy river. So for Hindus, that is such a fantastic experience. It really is in touch with God. So you can see the almost blissful look on the lady's face, and she's just so tranquil and at peace with all of the activity going around her, which, again, people dipping themselves in the river, and you can see the little brass pots on the side of the riverbanks there. So people take the holy water back to their temples at home, and they even take it back to their villages if they've traveled to Varanasi. Again, just more offerings into the river at dawn. And again. So,
Peter, I'm sorry, I couldn't turn mute off. Can you go back to that one?
This
Are
one?
you using any sort of artificial light to fill in here? Because it's obviously really backlit.
Yes. I don't use any artificial light, actually. It's the Sony camera has got such massive dynamic range.
Okay.
About 5 or 6 stops of dynamic range. So generally any detail that's hidden in the shadow, you can recover from the raw files.
Are you using a 7 R3?
So yes, 7R2 actually was the majority of these pictures were taken.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, it's handled so well. It felt like there must be some artificial light, but it's really nice.
Yeah. Well, he was, as you can imagine, silhouetted against the sunrise there. So
Yeah. Well done.
Thank you. So this next section, I can skip it because it does deal with one of the things that Varanasi is, central to the Hindu religion for, which is actually death and cremation. So I'll give you a warning now. If you want me to skip it, I can, but it's not. There is a picture of a body on a funeral pyre, not burning, but it's all wrapped up. So just give you that warning. So if you want to dip out or you want me to skip that, I can. But if I don't hear from you, I'll just carry on. So Varanasi. So the Hindus believe in a circle of life. So they believe in reincarnation. So, you know, as you go through your material life, you'll die, and then you'll get, depending on how good your karma's been through your life, you'll get reincarnated, and then you'll go through it all again. And this just goes on and on and on and on and on, right? So it's like an endless cycle of life and death for Indians. But if the reason that Varanasi is so significant is that if you can get, if you die, if you can get cremated and have your ashes scattered in the Ganges, that actually breaks the cycle. And then, you know, you won't get reincarnated at that point. You will actually go to heaven effectively, and your cycle of reincarnation is over. So you're relieved of that endless cycle. So people do come to Varanasi just to die. So there are a lot of aged people in effectively nursing homes, pretty rough and ready nursing homes, but they're there basically to spend their last few days so that they can actually get cremated on the ghats, on the burning ghats. There are two in Varanasi, one at either end of the town. And yeah, so that's the end. And that so it's a very symbolic city for Hindus.
Peter, one of the things I thought was interesting is, you know, in the States, we're so accustomed to funeral homes bringing bodies to different places, and it's all a personal thing in India. We saw a car and a bus go by with a body strapped to the roof with the family in the car taking it to Varanasi.
Yeah.
It's a body wrapped up, strapped to the roof. And that's
yeah.
because everybody brings their dead relatives to Varanasi. And it's just, it was so bizarre. Like I said, we're accustomed to ambulances and everything, and it's much more personal and a family responsibility thing in India.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's very, you know, it's very personal, and it's also it's always there in Varanasi. And I think Varanasi is quite polarizing. Some people really can't deal with that. You know, they really find it's just too confronting. But actually, I found it quite uplifting because, you know, death is going to happen, you know, to all of us, and we've all got to, you know, get to that point. But in India, it's not hidden away. It's not, you know, it's actually, you know, it's just there, and there's no shame, you know, there's no sort of shame in it, which I think we've got a very strange relationship with death in the West, I think. So this is actually a body being carried through the streets. So as soon as a Hindu dies, very quickly, you know, they've actually got to deal with it. They deal with the body very quickly. So this person would have just died within the last few hours. They would have been wrapped in silks that you can see in whatever they were wearing, all their jewelry, all of anything that they were wearing. They just wrap them in that, in the silks, and they put them on one of these wooden stretchers and carry them down through the streets, down to the area where they weigh the body. So they'll know how much wood they need to build the funeral pyre, and then off they go, and the cremation starts. And which I'll come on to in a sec. But we had a very interesting experience when we were there. That there was one of the car parks that led into the older part of the town. There was a lot of wailing and people crying, and there's an ambulance that just pulled up. And what it was is that a young, you know, a fairly young guy in his 30s had been pronounced dead at the local hospital, and they were bringing him back into the main part of Varanasi to be wrapped and taken down to the ghats for cremation. So there was, you know, obviously the family were there, you know, walking with the guy on the stretchers, but the other way back to his house. So anyway, after about 15 minutes, there was a lot of shouting and people running through the streets in the opposite direction. And what had happened is this guy that had been pronounced dead in the local hospital, as they were getting him ready for his, you know, wrapping him and getting him ready for, he basically came back. He wasn't dead at all. He came back to life. So there was all of the family and his friends were charging him back to the hospital So yeah, that was a bit of a bizarre experience. And everybody I told in India, they were sort of thought it was like a miracle that we'd witnessed, and it, could quite possibly have been. So this is actually this is the cremation stage of the person's journey, final journey. So you can see the mango wood, which is the holy wood that they use for the cremations. So the body's been placed on that, and wood's been placed on top of the body. They've been dipped 3 times in the river, in the holy river, to cleanse them prior to their cremation, and their silks have been removed. And the untouchable caste people run the cremations. They're just walking. They walk around the body 3 times with the burning, the straw here that they're using to light the fire. And around them, they'll be accompanied by the family, the male members of the family. The female members don't attend the funeral ceremonies. It's more of a superstition that it's bad luck. So this is just about to this person's just about to be cremated. So, and then after the cremation, his or her ashes are scattered in the river. So that's the end of their mortal life, if you like. So it's a very significant thing to Hindus who come here. It's a real, it's a real spiritual thing. So here we go. So every night on the banks of the Ganges, there are religious ceremonies. This one is called the Ganga Aarti. So this has been happening for thousands of years. And when you're in Varanasi, for me, it was like stepping back. It really was like I'd gone through a time machine, and I'd stepped back 2,000 years. It's such a historic city, and it's with the way that people are dressing and the religious ceremonies and the cremations, it really is quite overwhelming in a lot of ways, but incredibly interesting and incredibly fascinating. So this is a ceremony that happens every night, and it's probably happened for the last 2,000 or 3,000 years in Varanasi, where the Brahmin monks go through a series of religious activities, and this is all in praise of Mother Ganga. And with the lamps that they're holding here, quite often you'll see Hindus with a much smaller light, and they'll bless somebody by rotating around somebody's person. So that's a very a way of blessing somebody with the flames. And fire is a very potent symbol in the Hindu religion. Okay, so that's the end of Varanasi, which I'd highly recommend a visit. I can't wait to get back there myself. I've only been there once, but I'd highly recommend going to Varanasi, a fascinating city. So off to Agra, the home of the Taj Mahal, which is probably the most photographed place in the world. I think millions and millions of pictures. This was built by Shah Jahan for one of his favorite wife that had died. It's a incredibly beautiful, and the structure, just the actual engineering that's gone into the Taj Mahal back in the 1600s, quite breathtaking. What they managed to achieve. And you can see to the left and right of the Taj Mahal, there's one of the buildings on the left is very similar to the mosque that I showed you a picture of in Old Delhi, and on the right hand side it's actually a boarding house. But when I went to Agra, I'm not really a huge fan of going to the huge tourist sites. It's good to see, but they are really heaving with people. And they are heaving with street vendors and all sorts of people just hassling you all the time, especially on the way into these famous sites in India. Really not pleasant. And I think a lot of people that go on guided tours of India to the famous sites, they really don't have a great experience, because that's the only part of India they see. They don't see the real India. When we go, we go independently. We book our own driver, We book our own hotels, and then in each city we go to, we do a lot of research and try and find a guide that will really give us an insight into the cities that we're visiting. So we did go and see this part of the this view of the Taj Mahal, which is obviously the very famous view. But I really wanted to find a different view of the Taj Mahal. So with the research we did and with the guide that we had, he took us to another place, which is this is actually on the Yaluma River. That's built on the banks of the Yaluma River. So we went on to the other side so we've just looked at the opposite view. This is a mirror view of the Taj Mahal, and these gardens are called Mehtab Bagh, the Midnight Gardens. They were built as an absolute mirror image. The site is a mirror image of the Taj Mahal site, but it's just set to gardens. So this is at around about sunrise, 6:30, probably 6:30, 7 a.m. in the morning. And you can see how few people are here. If we were in the Taj Mahal, it would just be teeming with people. But there were, I think, in these gardens, there were about 6 people. So it had an incredible view of the sun coming up over the Taj Mahal. And it was beautiful gardens and incredibly peaceful. So when I go around to the cities, I do try and find, if they are very touristy, I do try and find, a different aspect on it. Nobody really needs another picture of the Taj Mahal like the previous one. So I think this one is maybe a little different to what people generally see.
Well, the thing that I thought was interesting that I never got a grasp of until I actually went there is the actual size of this thing.
Oh.
If you look at this picture, you see these 3 people standing on the right here on top. They're on this side of the river. If you look at the wall right across that low one, right across the front, you'll see these little things like ants on top of that. Those are actual people on it. That building is just immense. It's hard to fathom the size of it until you're standing there looking at it.
It is. And you think it was built in the early 1600s. As I said, the engineering that went into that massive, mausoleum is absolutely breathtaking. And you can see a little bit on this picture. You can see the carving that's in the actual marble. But when you get up close to it, it's not only the carvings in it, it's actually inlaid with precious stones. Oh, the beauty of the place is just absolutely phenomenal, absolutely incredible. But for all that beauty, it's actually there's a little bit of revisionism going on about the Taj Mahal actually in India under Modi, who's a very, very strong Hindu nationalist leader, because it was built by Shah Jahan, the Muslim invader. There's quite a push to actually get people to visit some of the amazing Hindu structures that are around India in preference to the Taj Mahal. But having said that, on this morning, I'll move to the next picture. On this morning, so again, this is quite an unusual picture for this time of the year. In about March, the river's usually empty. It's usually dried out by this time of the year. But to get down to the river, I had to climb over a barbed wire fence at the edge of the gardens, the Midnight Gardens. There's a sign there, but the fence was pretty decrepit. So I'd seen the shot. I'd seen the sun and the reflections of the Taj Mahal, and I just thought, no, I've just got to get over that fence and get down to the river to get this shot with my wide-angle lens to get as much as I can. And I sort of walked down, and I'd taken, I think, 2 or 3 pictures, and then the next thing I knew, I had these armed guards running towards me, yelling at me, just stop, what are you doing? What are you doing here? And not in the slightest bit impressed that I'd climbed the fence. The reason being, it was the day that Donald Trump was actually in Agra. He'd come to visit India with Modi. He'd come to visit the Taj Mahal with Modi. So he was actually arriving at around about noon. This was about 7:30, 8 o'clock by the time I took this picture. So they were to say they were a little jumpy was an understatement. So they were going to confiscate my camera actually, but I managed to talk my way out of that. So because there's no way I was going to give up my camera and the pictures to the guards, but yeah, suitably admonished, I climbed back over the fence. But when you're saying about the people there, so this is another good example of, you see how tiny the people are. Look. Incredible, isn't it? So, okay. Now off into the, so from Agra we went to Jaipur and didn't really, just did a little bit in Jaipur. I'm not featuring that in this presentation, but we went off into rural India. Now, this is a country house of one of the Indian royal families. It's called Shapura Bag, and what happened in this early 70s is that Indira Gandhi, the socialist president of India, Prime Minister of India, she basically did away with the royal families in India. So previous to that, the royals had run everything, and after, even with the English there, the British let them pretty much carry on running things for the Raj. But after independence, there was still royals in India, and they received a stipend from the government. But the socialist government of Indira Gandhi decided, no, we don't want any more royals, so just did away with that whole structure of society. So a lot of the royal families left without a stipend, and these huge palaces and country houses to maintain, turn them into hotels. So if you want a really magnificent experience of India, if you do decide to go to India, I'd highly recommend looking up the boutique hotels that the royal families run. It's really, you're actually looked after by the royal families. And sorry, I thought I turned that off. It's my daughter. Sorry about that. Yeah, they're actually still run. The smaller hotels are still run by members of the royal families, and the actual insight they can give you into India and the stories they can tell are absolutely fantastic. So this is our first experience of that at Shapura, which is a city between Jaipur and Udaipur in Rajasthan. So they took us out to the rural villages and rural life. 80% of people still live in rural India, and it's like stepping back in time. It's quite fantastic, the lifestyle that they live. And again, you think of famines and poverty and people having a horrible life, but the happiest people I think I've ever met in the whole world are living in these villages. They're just so chilled and relaxed and friendly and open. Just the openness, it just absolutely melts your heart. I think it's quite regularly I was moved to tears by the friendliness of and the openness and the hospitality of the people who live out in rural India. And just the way they live, again, to us looks quite basic, but really it's well set up into family groups. And the clothing that the women particularly wear, they're not wearing saris, they're wearing traditionally locally woven fabrics. And again, it's as you're going through these villages, it's like a fashion parade. It's just gorgeous. The actual the colors and the quality of the fabrics. And the other thing, you're thinking that these people living in rural areas are very poor, but when you actually start to look a bit closer, you actually start to see the jewelry that the people are wearing. So you can see the necklaces, you can see the wristbands, and these aren't just these are precious metals, gold and silver and precious stones. You can only see a little bit on this lady. Around her waist, she's got her shawl there tucked into. It's actually called, it's a wedding belt, a Rajasthani wedding belt, which is given to the bride by the groom's family as part of the you know, of what, you know, it's forgotten what it's called now, but anyway, what's given to the wife's family, or given to the wife as part of the wedding ceremony. And you can see that belt, it's handcrafted, it's, you know, 4 or 5 inches deep, thick, and it's just beautiful. And every married woman in these villages has one of these beautiful belts. So really, you know, they're really not poor people. So kids, the Indian kids, just, you know, when you get to the villages, you pretty much get treated like a Hollywood star. It's so charming. They run around after you. They all want their pictures taken with you. They want you to take their pictures. Oh, it's just really so heartwarming. It's just fantastic. And they still, you know, in the smaller towns, people are just working on the streets. They're doing every craft you can imagine. So this is obviously a cobbler. People are making copper pans. They're tailors there. There are people selling fabrics. There's just all of these old, sorry about this, I thought I'd turn this, all these old crafts still happening out on the streets. And it's just so interesting. And, you know, in our modern world, you know, we go to a mall and everything's there and it's really homogenized and boring. But in India, there's just all of this activity going around, you know. And for example, if you want to get some clothes made, you'll go to the fabric seller, you'll buy your fabric of choice, and then you'll carry that to the tailor who'll measure you up and, you know, make beautiful shirts or garments for you. You can go then to the cobbler and get a pair of shoes made. It's all happening literally on the street. It's just fantastically interesting. This is a local tribal woman who's come into the town to do her shopping. And again, look at the life in her face. It's just I love it. People are just gorgeous. So in the village, this is just going separating the chaff from the wheat. So still very, very old fashioned, very, very traditional. Still living, and this is Granny doing the job, and you can see the kids still, and they all live in the family groups still. So in India, the families still generally all live together.
One of the other things fascinating about this picture and one of the others that you showed is the doors in some of these places. I was fascinated. I have probably pictures of 20 or 30 doors. Look at the door behind the child in this picture.
Probably, yeah, yes, beautiful, aren't they? Yeah, yeah. Well, the entrance on the previous one, you know, this one here. Look at that. I mean, it's just,
yeah, that one.
Yeah,
that one's got some wear on it, but there is just incredible ones.
Yeah. This is just this is actually this is lunch being prepared. So it's all done at ground level, and you know, vegetables are chopped down on the floor, and you can see the smoke from the fire that's inside the house there. So this was I like this one because it just caught the light shining through, and but again look at the jewelry that the lady's wearing, on the rings on her fingers and her bangle, on the on her arms there. These are probably plastic. These are actually plastic these days, but this is again a symbol of a married woman. The armlets that she's wearing, and you see that quite often through Rajasthan. And again, just the openness of the people. Just, you know, they see you, they're waving, they're smiling, they want to talk to you, they want to engage with you. So it really is just heartwarming. This is an Indian shepherd. So he was just standing in his little house there, and the light was just streaming through the window. So I just held my camera up, and he just stood there beautifully and posed the image. It sort of looks a little like a studio shot, but it's all natural light, and it was taken, you know, literally. I saw him. I held my camera up. He posed beautifully, and that was all done in under a minute, I think, that picture. So, but again, you can see that, you know, the turbans, that denotes that he's a shepherd. So there's, you know, each different profession has a different turban in Rajasthan. You can see around his neck the upper rope necklace that he's wearing with a little silver attachment there that actually holds prayers in there. So that's a religious thing. And the bigger one, again, knotted rope with metal wrapped around it. And with this, it looks like gold, but it is actually painted tin, actually, but with a God's impression onto it. And it's, again, just everyday wear for the villages in Rajasthan. So it's actually, it's sad to see, as I've been going to India over the years, more and more people are wearing Western clothes, and they're not, cheap Chinese Western clothes, which really is a terrible shame when their traditional clothes are actually so, tell such a story and so beautiful. But hopefully that tradition, they will maintain the tradition of wearing their traditional outfits. So schools, education is incredibly important in India, and it's given a massively high priority. These kids, look at them, all beautifully turned out, hair beautifully done, clean clothes, lovely crisp shirts, and it's seen obviously as an escape from the harshness of rural life. The kids are all given their education for free, so they're given their uniforms for free. So the poorest kids look the same as the more affluent kids in these little villages, and they're in there, and they really do take a pride in their education. So we went to this particular school, and we wanted to see a rural school, and it's, if you do go to India, I'd recommend that as well. It's a fascinating experience. So we were taken into this first class, and they were the girls on the left. You can see again their hair's all identically beautifully braided, and wearing the school uniform there, and you can just the hope and the life in these young people's eyes just sums up the upcoming generation of Indians. And when we spoke to the kids, these are older kids, probably in the sort of 13, 14 range. They all had a very good grasp of English. They were all wanting to be engineers and doctors, and all had aspirations of going on to university and just moving themselves in India forward. So, but I just love this picture, just the shine in these lovely kids' eyes, and they're sort of looking into their future with optimism and hope, I think, and happiness. This is one of the Hindu temples in Shahpura that we went to, and it was actually a 250-year-old temple, and it was actually a celebration of the founding. And this is just one of the monks there at the celebration, looking very resplendent in his pink, holy pink robes. But again, saying about the friendliness, we're coming as non-Hindus into this area, and one of the gurus was actually of this religious sect was actually in the temple, and there were huge queues leading up to see him. And when they saw us Westerners there, they took us, a couple of local people, they just grabbed us and they ran us literally to the front of the queue, with everybody just going, "No, go forward," and just pushing us forward, and so that we could actually meet the guru, which was, again, symbolic and systematic of the way that the Indian people really are so open-hearted and welcoming in their country. There's no barriers there. It's beautiful. So some very stern-looking women, which again, which I thought was quite a nice image. All in their beautiful saris. They're just such a fantastic garment. The sari is so elegant, it's so beautiful and so colourful. This is quite a funny image, because this is actually in the gardens of the temple, and about 10 minutes after this, I went off to. I was rushed into the main part of the temple to see the guru, and my wife Sarah. It was a male-only thing, which is quite common in this religion, unfortunately. But there it is. But when I came back, I actually I couldn't sight my wife, and I just. But all I could see is like a huge mountain of Indian women, effectively, just all sort of crowded around something, and all looking down. And but there must have been 30 of them, and sort of finally worked out what it was. Is my wife was in the middle of the group of women, and they were just so fascinated by what my wife was wearing, her clothing, even her undergarment, like her bra and things. They were just so fascinated with how she was dressed. And these women had just effectively adopted her and just surrounded her, and just, it was such a beautiful experience. And I think you can see in the faces of the women here, how open and friendly that they are. So this is again in deep rural Rajasthan. We've been out to see leopards in a very famous area of like a hilly area of Rajasthan, and we were on the back of the jeep that we've been out to see the leopards. We didn't actually see leopards that day, but on the way back, this herd of bulls was actually being herded back, and with the backlight, luckily I had a 200mm lens on them. They're not as close as they look, fortunately, because they look quite terrifying. But I managed to capture this image. So these are the bulls who actually service the cows in the villages. So they have quite a life, I think, and obviously don't have to worry too much about ending up on anybody's dinner plate, which is good. So from rural Rajasthan, we're going out into the desert, into the Thar Desert, which is a few hundred kilometers to the west of Delhi. So the Thar Desert is a huge area of northern India, and this is a city called Jaisalmer, and this fort was built 1,000 years ago by one of the royal Bharti clan. The royals tended to be separated into clans, and this clan is, as I said, the Bharti clan, who are actually still living in Jaisalmer. And when it was originally built, it was just surrounded by desert. It was quite a strategic town. It used to be on the Silk Route. So the traders used to come through Jaisalmer, and they were on their way to Karachi, which is a port that's now in Pakistan, but it was obviously pre-partition. It was part of India, and the traders used to carry the silk through this part of northern India to get to Karachi. And the rulers of Rajasthan actually gave the traders safe passage, because there are lots of brigands there, looking to rob the camel trains and things. So they used to stop in Jaisalmer. They were taxed by the local royal family, and from that, from the proceeds of that, then this magnificent fort was built. And it's what they call it's one of the world's 5 living forts. So there's only 5 forts in the whole world which are still people still inhabit and run businesses from, and just live their normal lives actually in the fort. So when you're there, it's not just a dead just a museum piece. It's actually it gives you an insight into how people used to live back in the 1,000 years ago through the Middle Ages in these living forts. So that's Jaisalmer Fort, and there's few of these magnificent, huge structures, right around Rajasthan and through India. It's just a great thing to see. That's just up on the parapets of the fort, and you can see the guy there. It's they have a kite flying festival in India, so that's in around about February. So you can see the guy there without any ratings or anything, just launching his kite and flying his kite, just practicing for the kite festival. So this is so as this city of Jaisalmer grew, the city was built out of the local sandstone, as was the fort. And you can see this is towards the end of the summer in India, in the desert, which is searingly hot. And this was a really hot day, a 45-degree day, and everything slows right down in Jaisalmer at that time of the year. There's very few tourists, and it's a very very quiet. People just sit very quietly and try not to expend too much energy. And I just thought that sort of capture this image, this quiet, sleepy sort of feel you get in the city in that time. And the other thing you can see is on the frescoes of the buildings, all of these beautiful carvings that are done in the local sandstone. So right through Jaisalmer, the buildings all have, they've got these beautiful decorations on the buildings on this beautiful golden sandstone, which just at sunset and dawn, it just glows. It's just a fabulous city of about only 80,000 people. So it's, by Indian standards, it's a tiny city. So very intimate, very easy to get around, and it's a lovely place. And again, the decrepitude is here as well, and the frescoes on the wall for Pepsi Cola and soft drinks there probably got painted 20, 30 years ago. They've never been retouched, and they just generally just sort of decay. But the patinas that gives is just, again, from a photographic point of view, it just gives you a lot to work with. This is one of the Jaisalmer gypsies. So, and they're famous for these amazing green eyes. So yeah, there's women like this all around Jaisalmer, and they live out in the desert. And have anybody heard of the Romany gypsies? They're prevalent right through Europe. They go right through Western Europe. And they actually originated in Jaisalmer, so they've actually sort of left Jaisalmer and moved west. But they, as I say, very characteristic. They're beautiful green eyes and stunningly beautiful women. This is just a picture of a man and his son in his little shop, which again I just saw as I was walking past. Which again, he posed very nicely for me. Okay, so this is one of the royals' palaces that we stayed in. So we were lucky enough to stay in this beautiful Haveli. Haveli is another name for a mansion. This is a 350-year-old building. Just the royal family, again, the Bharti royal family who built Jaisalmer Fort, still live here. And you can see at the far end there's the picture of the Maharaja, who's recently deceased, and then family portraits up around the walls. And so you really do feel like you're in this ancient family home, which is lovely. So built out of the local sandstone. So we were actually, before we had just checked in, and we were wandering around this hotel, and at the far end on the left, where you see that yellow and red banner with the swords on it, there was a door, and it said private, marked private. And being the inquisitive person I am, I thought I'll just stick my head in to the door and see what's going on. And this is what I saw. So this is the royal family's bookkeeper sitting at the desk in the family's very large lounge. And I really couldn't quite believe what I was confronted with when I saw this image. Just the old guy sitting at his desk with his books and his ledgers and his files of paperwork. And I held my camera up to the guy because I wanted to. Obviously, I was quite keen to get the picture, and I held my camera up as I always do, and he shook his head and waved me out. No, private. You cannot come here. Go. And I just couldn't believe I'd missed I just shot of a lifetime, right? Such a lovely picture. So luckily, prior to coming here, we'd stayed with at Shapura Bag, which I showed you previously, with the royal family there. And they were running the hotel. So I rang that hotel. I said, look, do you know the people who own Nachna Haveli? This is the hotel we're staying in. And they said, yeah, we'll give you an introduction to the family that are still running it. So a couple of phone calls later, we were actually invited to meet the family. And we got on actually very, very well with one of the younger sons, who's in his mid-30s. And I said, look, I explained to him that I wanted this picture, and he said, hey, yeah, sure, no problem at all. We can go and do it now if you like. So luckily the guy was still there at his desk working. So I walked in, held my camera up again just to let the guy know I was taking the picture, and snapped this image. So it took about 4 or 5 images. all done very quickly. And this has actually been one of my favorite images. And it was actually awarded, I was awarded top 20 emerging photographers in Australasia with this picture in a recent competition, the largest competition of its kind in our region. So that's really stood me in good stead. So again, you can see the the pictures of the family on the walls, which are lovely, and paintings and artifacts from the family going back hundreds of years. Yeah, so that's quite that really is a very special image to me. And it also gave us an introduction to the family that the royal family that founded Jaisalmer. And the next thing that happened was we'd spent a few evenings with the son, Shakti, he was called. He's the younger brother in the family, and so got on very well with him and got on like a house on fire. And about 3 months after we returned to Australia, something arrived in the email from Shakti, whose official name is Maharaj Kesri Singh Bhati, and it was an invitation to his wedding. So we couldn't believe that. We didn't know if it was a joke or somebody was winding us up, but he had actually invited us to his wedding. So 3 months after our initial meeting with him, we were back in Jaisalmer. Something I didn't have any spare time, but I just had to make time. And this image actually is of Shakti in his wedding regalia, sitting on the horse that they parade. The groom and the wife and the groom, they live in, when they're getting married, they stay in separate hotels, and that's, in modern times, that's supposed to replicate the different villages they lived in. And the groom and the bride have all of their different ceremonies on their own on the 4 days leading up to the main wedding. So they're completely separate. And on the day of the actual wedding, the groom will go to the village of the bride. So in this case, the hotel of the bride. And he's on his beautiful Miwa horse and surrounded by all of the people in the purple headdresses. These are also Maharajas from all over Rajasthan who'd come to the wedding. So yeah, that's quite a special picture, I think, for me. And this is actually the final wedding ceremony with all decked out in all of the beautiful clothing, and his wife, obviously face covered, actually at the very final wedding ceremony where they become husband and wife. Just the colors and the sounds, and there was music playing endlessly from local musicians. It was just a magnificent experience. If you ever do get invited to an Indian wedding, you really I'd take the opportunity. Okay, so I'll speed up a bit because I see we're getting through. I'm chewing up quite a bit of time here. So these are wedding dancers. These are local gypsies who actually performed at the wedding ceremony. And again, the colors, just the magnificence of all the costumes, and these are obviously special for the wedding, but Indian weddings are a thing of magnificence, and the wedding season, this is actually not just for royal people in India. It's just even regular families spend ruinous amounts of money on their daughters' weddings, and they really are absolutely spectacular. So we're now in Udaipur, which is quite a magnificent city. It's the city of lakes, the White City. Most of the buildings are built out of white marble, mined in the local hills. This is the Lake Palace. It's actually run as a luxury hotel now. It's called the Taj Lake Palace. It was actually derelict until the 1940s, 1950s, when the local Maharaja, the Maharajas, even though they were not deemed as royals anymore, still had quite a bit of wealth that the government hadn't managed to take off them. And the local Maharaja actually, with the Taj Group, brought this beautiful building back to its former magnificence.
Peter, when we checked into that hotel, we walked into the front door and there are people where the boat is over here on the right. There were people
Yes.
on the roof dropping rose petals off on our heads as we walked in. It was
Yeah, isn't that magnificent?
the most bizarre thing.
But isn't it lovely?
It was
Did
gorgeous.
you feel like a Maharaja?
I did. I've never been showered with rose petals before.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Yeah, that's a beautiful experience, isn't it? Yeah, we had a couple of nights here, and I got up at around about 5:30 just to get some pictures of the dawn coming up over the city, and the boatman was just sitting there, not doing very much. So I said, "Look, do you mind just taking me around the lake?" So he took for about an hour. He just plodded around and allowed me to take pictures. And again, this is one of my favorite pictures of Rajasthan, of this beautiful building. So again, this is on, it's actually, the lakes are man-made. These again were built in around about the 1700s. So again, amazing feat of engineering. And the whole city is built around these series of 7 lakes, the main one being called Lake Pichola. And again, this is just, from that dawn boat ride, this is one of the temples actually on the lake. And this is from another one of the beautiful heritage hotels that are actually on the banks of the of Lake Pichola. If you see the boat there chugging out to the left, that's actually if you were to look out of the window just on your left there, that is where the Lake Palace is. So this is just a view of the beautiful this Islamic inspired architecture around the windows here. Just beautiful, sitting on the lakeside there. Fantastic. Now we're in the center of India, and we're coming through now. So this is the ancient city of Hampi. So this in the Middle Ages, this was one of the world's biggest and richest cities. Not many people have heard of Hampi. We hadn't really heard of Hampi. So, but it is the most magnificent place you can imagine. It's built over about 17 acres. And when the Portuguese traders went there in the Middle Ages, he wrote in his journal that if I were to tell people of how big and how magnificent and how wealthy this city was, people would not believe me. So second only to Beijing in the Middle Ages for wealth and size. It was absolutely amazing. So again, it's sort of, a lot of these amazing monuments and cities were quite derelict, including the Taj Mahal actually was quite derelict until like the turn of the century, when people started pumping money in. And Hampi is just this amazing Hindu empire that was around in the Middle Ages, and these buildings from that time. It's built out of there's sandstone there, but it's built on these huge granite outcrops. So it's just quite stunning, the actual the feeling you get from this city of Hampi. Very ancient and really quite otherworldly actually. So you can see here these huge granite outcrops that the actual lot of the buildings are made from. And you'll see on these rocks, you see the one, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but on the rock in the foreground to the right here, you can see the holes that have been drilled in the rock. So the way that the rocks were mined was that they drilled holes into the rocks, okay, and then they put in wooden wedges, hammered wooden wedges into the holes, and then soaked the wooden wedges. So as the wood expanded, it actually caused these huge granite boulders to split almost perfectly, straight-sided. And the thought is that this technique was also used to build the pyramids, the way that they banged in the wedges and with wood and soaked the wood and used that to split the rocks. This is down on the river that Hampi is built around. It's actually in the middle of quite a arid area, but the river brings great fertility, and it's quite weird in the middle of, it's almost a desert area around Hampi to see banana plantations. It's really quite weird. And again, the river's very sacred to Hindu life, and the rocks that you see there, the striped paintings, that's all to Lord Shiva. All the emblems are of Lord Shiva. In the river, you'll see, if you look hard, you'll see little bull statues, and a bull is a different version of Shiva, a different manifestation of Shiva, and you can see Shiva carved into the rock on one of the if you look closely. So And this is the temple elephant being taken down for her morning bath every morning. Lakshmi gets taken down to the river by her mahout and has a lovely time just bathing in the river. And she seemed pretty relaxed. I know there's a lot of antipathy towards using animals in this sort of thing these days, but she seemed pretty happy actually. Okay, and then we're again another magnificent city in southern India this time. This is Madurai, which was built, again, another city built in the Middle Ages. This is actually used Italian architects, so that shows how international a country was and how wealthy and important a country India was at that time, that they could bring architects over from Italy to help build their palaces. And these are just a group of lady pilgrims who've just taken a rest in the palace, just to sit in the shade and take it all in. And Madurai is a very religious city, and these are a group of young Brahmin monks who sitting there with their books, learning the Vedic verses. And the Brahmins are famous for being incredibly smart. And these young Brahmin monks, by the time they're in their 20s, they'll know literally thousands of Vedic verses off by heart. Incredible. And now we're in southern India. So this is down in Kerala. So this is a rice barge that's been converted into a houseboat. So that's quite a tourist attraction these days. But Kerala is very tropical. It really is lush and beautiful down there. And yeah, this is on the Kerala back. They call them the Kerala backwaters.
Peter, is that a Nick like glamour glow that you're using on that? It's just a
Yes.
Okay, it is. Okay.
There's a bit of a glow, but it wasn't quite as glowy as this. Yeah. So with the editing, I use Lightroom, but I do use Nick Collection. So I've got a set of filters that I've made for myself that actually give me the sort of look, because I'm not looking, it's not total realism I'm going for. It's just the feeling that I felt when I was looking at those images. So yeah, that sort of glowy sort of feel was, that's what I wanted to achieve in that particular image. And yeah, so still down in Kerala, obviously being on the coast, fishing is a huge part of life there. And we were just walking around and there's a guy there just sitting there in the morning sunshine, just mending his nets. So that came out quite nicely. Yeah, that's it. There we go. That's my tour.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. Oh.
We're done.
Yeah, anybody have questions for Peter?
Not questions, just comments. I was amazed at the colors. I just love the colors.
Yeah. It really, the colors are just breathtaking. Everywhere you go, it is just a riot of color. It's a riot of color. It's a riot of people. It's a riot of noise. It's really is, most incredible country.
Could you provide maybe a little more detail? You said you made yourself some filters. I noticed, especially on some of the portraits, there's an extra glow on some of the bodies, and it's just, can you just talk a little bit to your process a little bit?
Yeah. Does anybody use Nick Collection?
I do.
I do a bit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's what you can do in Nick Collection. There are filters there, individual filters. Glamour Glow is one of those, but there's a few other. There's dozens of filters. So what I've done over the years is basically the ones that I've, there's generally when I start to process an image, there's a certain feeling that I'm trying. It's not about the accuracy of the image. It's about the feeling that I had when I saw the image, and that's what I'm trying to portray in the editing. And the glow, the glow in India, the glow of that light is something that I'm, really try to capture. So one of the filters in Nick Collection is called Glamour Glow. Now you've got to be a bit careful how you use it, because it can look really quite unrealistic. But when I combine that with something called, there's a detail enhancer in Nik Collection that when you use it with Glamour Glow, you get if they're used individually, either it's too glowy or too much detail, but when you combine the two, which you can make up a recipe in Nik Collection. So you can layer filters. So my collection, I can send them to you if you're interested. It's around about 5 filters, and one sits on top of the other, and they all sort of interact, and you can actually build these recipes. So what I've got a series of recipes, depending on the scape, whether it's people or whether it's buildings or landscapes, that I after I go into Lightroom and do the basic edits, like getting the exposure balance and the white balance correct and things like that on the raw file, I export it from Lightroom. There's a plugin for Lightroom for Nik Collection, so it just exports it straight into Nik Collection, and then I can apply my recipe of filters. Okay, and then generally per image I'll go through and alter each individual filter within that recipe to get the balance that I'm looking for.
I would definitely be interested. So,
okay. I mean, I mean, privately, I can run you through that, or if you want to do it as a group, I can do that. So, but the Nik Collection, I find, just gives me the tools that I need. In Lightroom, it's not quite enough tools in there to give me the look that I'm trying to achieve. And Photoshop, you can do it, but obviously Photoshop, it's can be a little bit of a complex task. So I really do like the Nik Collection. You can do it if you haven't got it. You can actually download it as a free trial for a month, and just have a play with it. It's good. It's good.
I actually use it. There's a Photoshop version, and that's where I use it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can do it in Photoshop as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it works the same way. Yeah.
It does, yeah. So so in Lightroom, you basically export the image and it comes back as a TIFF. When you use it in Photoshop, it creates a layer which actually gives you a bit more flexibility. But yeah, highly recommend that. Yeah.
Alrighty. Any other questions for Peter? I mean, I concur with Lisa. I think the photos are breathtaking. They're beautiful, and your storytelling is. I mean, just kept me my eyes. I was right on there.
Oh, good.
So,
well, it's India gets a bit of a bad rap, but I think it's one of those things, and Reed will probably back me up on this. It's you've really got no idea. You've really got whatever impression. If you haven't been to India, whatever impression you have of India is completely wrong. I think it's fair to say that. And is that right, Reed?
I agree 100%. I went because of the people that I met in the IT world. I met a lot of Indians, fell in love with the people and the culture, and that sent me over. And I was just truly blown away by what I saw, the people I encountered. It was just one of probably the most incredible vacation I've ever had.
Good, thanks. Yeah, well, I just can't get enough, and not being able to. We were the year COVID hit. We were in India up until March, and we got out mid-March just in time, and we came back through Singapore. And our flight, because of COVID, our flight from Singapore to Perth had been cancelled, so we really got out just in time. But thank goodness we'd spent 3 months on that particular trip, traveling around India. So, thank goodness we did that, because obviously, it's been a while since we've been there, and it's going to be a while until we can go again. And my friend Shakti, whose picture I showed you at the wedding, he's been married for 1.5 years now, and his wife yesterday had their first baby son. So, in normal times we would have been going over to see them, but tragically we can't do that. But no, it's hard times for. But and again, in India, the COVID crisis in India has been absolutely, so completely devastating. It's the number of people that have been lost to COVID is probably on a scale 10 times worse than the official figures.
Yeah, we saw something on the news the other day about how Varanasi was just overwhelmed. I mean,
Yeah.
like it takes around 400 to 600 pounds of wood to cremate somebody generally. And the landscape has just been stripped bare.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
Smog in the air as a result. The cremations just can't keep up.
Yeah, I can only dread to think, but but it's been, as I said, I've got friends around India, and they were saying, what, we're hearing of, in their little town, the official number was maybe 200 deaths to, in the last month. He was saying no, 2,000.
Yeah.
So anyway, but anyway, that they're coming through it, and just can only hope and pray that they will get through it. They've been through terrible things in India, and very resilient, and they're very that religious. That religion that they have sort of stands them in very good stead in a strange way through these terrible things, and they will come through it. So yeah.
Peter, thank you very much. It was very enjoyable.
Yes,
Good. Well, thanks very much for your attention. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thanks very much for I really do appreciate the invitation and the opportunity. Thank you.
So
Yes,
Sean,
thank you. They were awesome. It was amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
so much.
you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Sean, Tuesday.
Tuesday back at our pack.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Peter.
Okay, nice to meet you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Oops. I guess I'll back up again.
I think the camera
Oh, the camera went away. All right. Good night.
Bye, Carol. Bye, Pat.
Bye.
All right.